Welcome to the Men Talk Ubuntu podcast. Our guest this episode is Yusuf Alimi, a Nigerian native, a fantastic father, a marvelous mentor, and a man pursuing a PhD. PhD in reproductive sciences, particularly investigating how a mother's diet affects the health of the offspring, specifically the mental health. Yusuf, an absolute pleasure to have you here with us. Please tell us about your story and your journey.
Thank you, Shai. It's really a privilege for me to be here. I feel so honored to be here. I'm happy to spend this time with you. Like you said, I'm from Nigeria, so my story started in Nigeria a few decades ago. And actually, my story started 2 weeks before I was born. My dad lost his job, and then things were very, very difficult. So growing up was terrible in many respects, but one very vital thing for me was that through all this, I learned leadership. I learned how to serve people around me through the examples of my dad, because he did all he could to hold the family together. And my mom also tried her best to support the family. And that's one legacy of my growing up was the pursuit of education and academic excellence, which is why I resolved quite early to pursue that academics, and that took me to university. I became a veterinary doctor, and then from then I got a master's. Of course, my family couldn't afford me getting a master's, and I wanted to study internationally. So I applied to Edinburgh and I got a scholarship. So I did a master's in Edinburgh, and now I'm doing a PhD at the University of Manchester. So that in a nutshell is my story.
Wow, fantastic.
Wow.
Thank you, Yusuf. I think that also goes beautifully into our topic for today, which I think Ray will shift over, which is around, men talk about opportunity and limitations.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I was a bit blown away by your journey and where you've obviously come, because everybody's on a journey. So I'm just going to delve deep into it and ask you, one, what does mental health mean to you as a man? And two, what has your journey been in terms of mental health itself? And three, you obviously joined us on a remarkable journey when we hiked up in terms of Men Talk Ubuntu. And what did that mean to you? So, just three different lenses to get your perspective on. So, yeah.
So where I sit today, mental health for me is what that piece that holds everything together, the piece that holds it all together, that gives sanity and gives you that confidence to know that you can you can always pull through whatever challenges. And before I joined you guys on the trip to Snowdon and Mentalk Ubuntu, and before I came across this whole idea of the concept of mental health for men, I didn't really think much of it, because coming from Africa, it was just understood that mental health was not an issue we should be deliberating or discussing, because people just took it for granted, especially as a man, that you're a man, you have to just figure it out. Whatever is happening to you, you just get a hold of yourself and move on. So that was just the men around me that I saw were the kind of men that just gave the picture, even though they had their challenges. But as a child, I wouldn't have known about my dad's challenges. It took me years later, many years after, like I said, he lost his job 2 weeks before I was born. And he didn't get the next stable job until I was 10 years old. And so I can now imagine, and I did witness a lot of what he went through as a child, but I didn't really have a hold or a grab of exactly what he was going through, because the picture was supposed to be a perfect picture. Whatever happens as a man, you hold your family together, you move on, you don't complain, and nobody needs to know. But right now, my perspective has changed in the last few weeks to months. Now I've been doing a lot of reading, and I've been interacting with people, father figures and mentors in my support bubble, and I realized that the issue of mental health, especially for men, is far deeper than I used to think about it. Uh, that's I don't know if I've answered all your questions.
No. You definitely answered all the questions. I mean, finally, you know, how did you find the journey of obviously walking up and down? Obviously, there was a lot of walking, and I know that you also had your own, struggles that you didn't obviously want to share. You didn't want to put the burden on us. So yeah, I mean, fill us in terms of that.
Yeah, like I said, okay, I grew up knowing that I had a kind of disability in my left foot, my left ankle. There's something called the what's the name of this tendon? Achilles tendon. So the Achilles tendon in the left foot, tendons link bones to bones, and so the Achilles tendon in my left foot was contracted. I was born with a contracted Achilles tendon. What that means is that my left foot is kind of contorted in some way. So when I walk, there's always this people think like I'm just deliberately stylishly walking, but they don't know that it's actually was a deformity. So it means I don't do strenuous exercise. It means I've been advised by my doctors since I was like 5 years old to avoid sporting activities or anything that has to do with strenuous work. So climbing a mountain for someone like me is a big feat. It's something people like me don't do. And so when I got the call from Shai to be part of this, the first instinct was to say no. But when Shai tells you to do something, you want to do it. And so I decided that I was going to do this, even though it was stretching me from my comfort zone. And I went out of my comfort zone. And I decided, I debated in my head on how to go about it. Should I just disclose at the beginning of the expedition that, see, I have this problem. So, and I decided against that because I felt I didn't want people to be, like looking out for me or pitying me or stuff. So I decided to do it all the same without disclosing. And at the end of the whole day, I was glad I did because I forced myself to do something I wouldn't do ordinarily.
I'll take my hat off to you,
Yeah.
Go on, Shai.
I mean, I was just going to say, because even as you were trying to mention the word disability, it felt like I wasn't comfortable with you saying it because I feel like disability implies there is a lack of ability. And one of the reasons I invited you is I never even really noticed it. Probably because I was one of the people who thought you just walk with this cool swag.
The
But
word was deformity, was what I wanted to say.
yeah. I mean, that's perhaps, let's say, more accurate because even on the day, your ability level was never in question. And I think your spirit and the way that you carried yourself and went through it is nothing short of, you could see, you mentioned that you've undergone a lot of leadership in earlier life, a lot of leadership training and opportunities. That shone through because you conducted yourself just as a leader, someone who's constantly encouraging other people and showing them where to go. With regards to your mental health and what Ray was asking, I want to find out a little deeper. Like you're saying, you saw a lot of things, especially as you were growing up with your dad, and you're obviously very aware if you've grown up in a certain context for 10 years and then things change, and that's pushed you more than likely to achieve at a high level and to what you're doing now. You've definitely developed your mind. What helped you coping with some of those moments, or if you've started to process them more now as you're reading more, interacting more with people, what sort of things are helping you make sense of all that or come to an understanding, just in case there's someone listening who's experienced similar things, or right now with what's going on with the pandemic, a lot of people might be seeing their parents losing work or the situation at home changing. So just to see if there's anything that you've done or come across that they might find helpful, but might not take them as long to get to?
For me, I think one very key thing is having a support bubble, a support system. And for me, the first support system I grew up with was my family. It was a closely knit family. I've got like 5 siblings, and my dad and my mom were there all through. So even though you could see it in their faces that times are tough, things are hard, but we had ourselves, and then we also had friends. And then also one other thing is communication, because we always operate an open door policy. In my dad operated open door policy, which is something I feel I would want to emulate in my life. Because even as a 3-year-old, my dad told me things that he shouldn't have been telling a 3-year-old or 4-year-old. So I grew up knowing that this is what it is. So if things are difficult and you're asking for a toy, my dad would tell you, yes, I will try my best, but you can have this now because of this. And so I grew up knowing that my situation was kind of different, but also he was always telling us how he was always encouraging us and telling us that despite whatever is happening now, that it shouldn't end here, that we can do more than we give ourselves credit for. Like so that enthusiasm, that encouragement was also there. So I feel like a mix of all these things will always help you to we can always navigate despite the challenges, because if we don't have all these things together, it can look so daunting or overwhelming, all the challenges of life that life throws at us, especially in this kind of time. So for me, I had the support system, and I had a positive environment. That's what I would narrow it down to.
And can I ask, have you come across Ben Carson, MD, like from the US?
Yeah, I've come
Yeah.
across. I read his book, The Gifted Hands.
Ah,
Yes.
okay, cool. Because I was just, you sparked a memory from that very book where I think his mom provides that very honest outline of this is how much I have coming in and this is what I spend it on. And because him and I think his brother were asking for, like any young man wanting to look nice in school, they were asking for these things, and the mom was obviously saying, I can't. And she just went, here's the money. And I feel like that open discussion with children doesn't always happen because people want to shelter them. And I think from a mental perspective, as a child, you really want to hear more.
No, I definitely agree with you, and I think um, I've said it in so many conversations where you always feel as a child, Yusuf, you should consider yourself more than fortunate that the fact your father was very open and honest with you like that, just the same way as, depicted in that in that book, because the general consensus is that, especially when you're amongst adults or, your mum or your dad and things like that, when big people are talking, you don't talk, or you leave the room. This is big people's business. And I think having that kind of transparency and openness with your children, one, creates a full understanding of for them to realize what's actually happening, and it helps them in terms of the relationship you have with them moving forward. I know with my daughter, rather than basically saying, do this, do that, I always like to provide an understanding even before I instruct to do this. So the reason why we're doing X, Y, Z, or the reason why this has happened, or the reason why you're being punished is this, rather than her just being punished and not understanding, and then she does it again and things like that. So I think that is such a key element in terms, and that's something that I think nowadays is lacked. But having that realization as an individual and having a relationship with a child is always key to that. So yeah, you had it good. You had it good, Yusuf. Still
Thankful.
got it good.
I'm thankful, but I guess there's always it's a challenge now that I'm a dad to do better, like to do better than I were, to whom much is given, much more is expected. That's what I would say.
Powerful. Because I guess, and like I said, there's a balance. You want your children to be children, and you don't want to tell them too much too soon, because sometimes they actually aren't ready to hear all of that, or it's a bit too much to place on them. But there's no blueprint, there's no instruction manual. I'm thrilled. I feel like the old one out without having any children here.
Oh, you better enjoy it while you still can, bro, because once you have it, you'll be like, oh, damn.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Surely will. Yusuf, I'd like to ask you then, it feels like you say, you had a good supportive environment, you had positive role models in your dad and in other people around you. And this probably led you to take up some of these opportunities, and just even to getting this awareness of opportunities for a master's in Edinburgh. For someone who might be listening and they are back in Nigeria, but it might even be someone in the UK who's listening and they've got dreams or thoughts of studying abroad, but they don't know how to access the opportunity, or they're not even aware that the opportunity is there. What were some of the key things that for you allowed you to get the confidence to apply? And even how did you find out about opportunities like that when it comes to education? Because I feel like many of us we have blinders on, which are where we are, where we live. That's as much as we see. So if we don't know anyone who studied abroad or studied, we might not even see that for ourselves. So what led you to see such a, I guess, a global opportunity for yourself, just so that anyone listening might do the same?
I think the first thing for me was mentorship. Mentorship by when I looked around me, my dad was my first mentor. He got a master's degree, so he always used to tell us that, see, you have to go. Education is your only ticket out of the current situation, because even with going to school and getting a job, he lost his job, and for 10 years he was out of a job. So it was kind of sad, but he still told us that that's the only option you have, because if you don't even get an education, then where would you be? If you look around you, everybody is like, literally poverty surrounds me, in my family, in my extended family, my friends. And if I look around, coming from Nigeria, I have to be sincere with you, things were difficult growing up. So my dad was like a leading light, even though he didn't have much, but he had an education and people looked up to him. So he always used to tell us that, see, whatever you do, make sure you get an education. And an education will be your ticket to going global, to seeing the world. And you far outreach yourself if you get an education. So that was the first thing, mentorship. After then, when I started going to school, I looked out for people that were doing well, whether they were teachers, they were professors, and I spoke to them. First day I resumed as a vet student, and I didn't know what it means to be an animal doctor. And in my country, vets are not really well recognized. People tend to think that if human beings can't take care of themselves, where do they get money to take care of animals? So they feel like, oh, poor you're studying to become an animal doctor when you could have been a human doctor. So I went to ask my professors, sir, I see you're traveling around, you're going around the world, you're consulting for international organizations. How does this work? So he said, so he told me, one of my professors, he told me about the United Nations and how he consults for the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, that's FAO. And I was just in first year, but listening to him, I just knew I had an idea of what's possible. I knew that I didn't have to be condemned to just not having a job or having people laugh at me. I knew that as a vet in Nigeria, you can actually work for the United Nations. You can earn money in pounds or dollars, and then you can be fine. So, and then you can also serve, because I asked him, about how does the work you do, how does it make an impact? Because I wanted to know his why. And then he told me that the bulk of people that live in the developed world, they depend on animals for their livelihoods and survival. A lot of people, maybe because for people living in the UK, this might not be very clear, but a lot of people in the developing world actually depend on cattle, sheep, goats, and poultry for
Yes.
their survival. So their life is kind of intertwined with the animals' existence. Even in the developed countries, a whole lot of the developed countries also heavily depend on livestock production. Milk, the milk doesn't come from the supermarket, it comes from a dairy farm. But many people seem to have forgotten that. But so that's how close our lives depend on animals. And so this mentor of mine told me everything about his day-to-day job, and he told me about how this is what I can be if I choose this path. So I feel that gave me clarity. So I think the one thing people should seek is also to seek clarity. And then when you seek mentorship, you seek clarity. And then the next thing would be, where is the information that I need? These days, thankfully, we all have the internet. The internet is like, never in the history of the world has there been so much information at our disposal. But it's so shameful that many of us still don't choose to use the information, if I'm permitted to say that. Like Google
Absolutely.
is literally at our fingertips. And if we make Google our friend, you can start, if you're looking for a scholarship today, you can actually go on Google and start searching for a scholarship. And then you can look for people that have gotten scholarships before and find out from them what steps they took. Probably you have to write a personal statement. You have to put together a compelling application. And these are all things that are possible. But many people, because it looks so, it looks so vague, people don't think it is possible. But it's actually possible. People win scholarships every year. Millions of dollars in scholarships are given away every year. And unfortunately, a lot of funding organizations even fail to find scholarship candidates because there's a standard that is set before any scholarship is advertised. And if people don't meet up to that standard, or if they don't find people that apply, they're not going to just give it to anybody. So every year you find that scholarship money that has been budgeted for doesn't get used because people don't turn up. So there's a lot of opportunities apart from scholarships, but that's what we're talking about now. So let me just stop here.
Valuable, valuable. I mean, just the whole mentorship, clarity, information, and this journey to finding or seeking these opportunities. And you don't have to know about them right now and apply today. You can take your time and design whatever you do the next couple of years, if you're thinking that far ahead, to make you the ideal candidate. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's only when we're faced with situations like now that people appreciate how important health is and all of the other people who work within the health sector. Just like it probably be only when there's a food shortage that's upcoming, or there is something like SARS going on, that people then remember, like say, who is the farmer? Where is the food coming from? But we forget that we're part of this ecosystem. Like we're
Yeah.
not just some apex predator. Like most of us don't think about where the food's coming from, except when we go, am I going to buy organic, or am I going to save some pennies or something? But we don't think beyond that. And in that, we miss all of these massive opportunities. I think education as an opportunity is missed because I, for one, when I was growing up, all I ever thought about was I'll work in a bank, I'll be a lawyer, a doctor, or an accountant, because that's what I heard. But I never really thought about even seriously becoming an architect. I saw buildings, I saw houses. I never thought about the guy who designs these, or to know that there was someone maybe designing highways. I never thought about, you see people buying even food. Someone's designing the packages. Someone has a factory doing that. When it comes to medicine, someone is doing the research to figure out if this works. Never even thought about it. When you think about the kind of health issues people around you had, you thought about doctor, but you didn't think there were people, you didn't know how much was there. And I find it fascinating that you were curious enough to ask this particular lecturer of yours, for example, just how what he does has an impact, and how that one conversation led to you learning more about the UN and just clarifying what you could do and where you could be, and the fact that you can get paid in pounds when you're in Nigeria at the time, because you know that you're going to earn more equivalently. And if one person can now just think about the person you're taking for granted, because most of us don't actually go to our lecturers or people we know or people we've seen in the community and just ask them, what do you actually do? How does that make an impact? Or how does that make you feel? How does that drive you? And that one conversation you could have, even with a perfect stranger, could change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah, so I'll just say, like, one thing we tend to take for granted the things that are within our disposal, like our networks, our friends, our elders in the society, and all those people. Like starting where you are with what you have. That's like one of the golden advice you can ever get if you are maybe trying to start a scholarship and start a business, or you're trying to go to school. The first thing is to look around you, look at the people that have done the same thing you want to do, and try to model what they're doing, and ask questions from them. Like, you can never go wrong by asking questions. That's one of my core beliefs.
You know, you're definitely right, and what you said makes absolute sense. And I'm obviously thinking that in terms of the listeners, even though you're basically saying, look around your network, reach to people, but there's people that don't have those kind of skills. So to those kind of people, how would you strategize it in terms of, look at your people, but on top of that, how do they start a conversation with them? What do they say? Because you were very fortunate to, single-handedly reach out to these people. I know a lot of people that are not that confident to even speak to a lecturer or speak to this person and that person. So yeah, I mean, if you've got any suggestions and tools that would obviously help people, just a one-on-one Yusuf strategy kind of thing to help people.
Mentor the people, Yusuf. Come on.
Okay, so for me, the first thing is, if I'm trying to reach out to somebody, I want to find out if it's face to face. In the 21st century now, we can reach out to people in different ways. You can reach out to people that you have never met on the internet. You can send an email. You can reach out to them through social media. That's one way to contact somebody. And the other way would be face to face. So let me give you a recent example of internet, an email I sent to somebody that became a mentor and then earned me, I think, about 5,000 euros in just a job. Gave me a job, a consultancy of like 5,000 euros. So what I did was to send, I'd read up about her on the internet. She was a big person in the hierarchy of international animal health. And I wanted to work. I had gotten a master's degree from Edinburgh in international animal health, and I wanted to get, and it's one thing to get a certificate, it's the next thing to start using that certificate for a job or something. So I wanted a consultancy from an organization, but that was not the reason why I reached out. I just reached out because I wanted mentorship. I sent her an email and attached my CV. Brief CV, 2-page CV, and then just like 3 lines of words, like just 1 paragraph explaining who I am, why I've reached out to her, and I wanted mentorship from her. I tried to be as compelling as possible. I can't remember the exact words now, except I look it up. But the point is, you need to catch their attention. You need to let them know that this is not someone seeking for help, because most times people don't like people that are asking them for favors on the first, especially people that they don't know. If you're asking for a favor for the first time and the person doesn't know you, you are likely going to hear no. But if you're reaching out to the person like somebody that is also an industry player, and even though this person is higher up, you are showing the person that you have something to offer. So when she looked at my CV, it took like, I think 6 weeks before she replied me. But at some point, she got around to replying me. She looked at my CV. She saw that I had an impressive profile, and she said, "Oh, this is fine. You're already doing well enough. And then, if you have time, we could fix a meeting online." And then so that's how we got talking. And then just not long after, she sent me an invite. She said, there's a there's a consultancy in my office. They're looking for someone that can do this. Can you do it? I said, yes, I can do it. And the next week I was on a train to Mali. It's in Bamako in West Africa. I was going there to train veterinary officers from all the West African countries. And for that, I got paid. I got put in a very good hotel. They paid my fees, my flight tickets, and back. So why am I telling you the story? The story is, you at some point you have to act whether you're sure about it or not. And there are two ways you can act. The person can only say yes or no. So if he says yes, then you would have gained a lot for trying. And if he says no, you didn't lose anything. You didn't lose anything. You only tried. And you will get rejections in life. Rejections will come. But I feel like taking action, you can never regret taking action, because if you didn't take an action, the answer is clear. It's a no. But if you took an action, it can be a yes. So reaching out to people, there's no hard and fast rule to it. There's no formula. It's just about making an effort, trying to distinguish yourself. And it depends at which stage you are reaching out to people. Now, if you are a student in the university, I would advise you start with resources that are around you. You've got teachers, you've got professors. If this professor doesn't look nice, you don't have to be talking to him. If you want to talk to someone else, you can talk to somebody else that you feel more comfortable with. So I think there's no hard and fast rule, just about you taking action, and you need to take action fast, because the opportunities will not wait. You could just talk to somebody, and that can open up a lot of vista of opportunities for you. I've lived that experience many times, and because of such opportunities, now it has led to other opportunities.
100% agree there. And I think the underlying point you're also making, which is you have to be honest with yourself about the level that you're at. It's just like, if you had, I don't know, Elon Musk's direct phone line right now, or Warren Buffett's direct phone line right now, could you actually maximize the value you could get from them if you had them on the phone? Or are you in that position? Do you know enough? Do you have enough to provide that would make them elevate you to the opportunities that they have available? Because if not, it's not a time to get disheartened. It's a time to go, who do I know or can I reach out to that is perhaps more appropriate for the level that I'm at? Or what do I need to do? We're all valuable as human beings, but there will be something that you will need to provide, whether that's your attitude, good for you, or what specific skills do you have, or what abilities do you have that you can present to this person? Because this is where some people will say, I interned for free because I didn't have any of the skills, but I wanted to learn the ropes. And in that, they developed more skills. It's not saying go and intern for free, but it's saying some people will provide an internship. You won't get paid the full amount as someone who would know what they're doing in their field, but you won't be paid nothing, or they'll give you a transportation, and you get the opportunity that allows you to gauge where you're at. I love that key call for people to just take action, because at the very least, even if you get the rejection, you tried, and you can be proud of yourself for trying. And an opportunity that you completely avoid is one that you miss and you would never know. And that's a sad thing, to have the what ifs in your mind, no matter how afraid you are. Yeah. I still, I think I still miss a lot of opportunities. Just a disclaimer.
We all do.
Yeah.
We all do. It's a common
You're
thing.
not the only one. You're not the only one.
We're all involved in this. Like, even as much, there's this feeling I struggle with. It's the feeling of not being enough, like not enough, like this imposter syndrome. When I first got to Manchester, I felt like, what have I gotten myself into? But the same thing, and then I realized that, oh, I graduated from Edinburgh, so this should not scare me. You know, even though this is a PhD, and of course a master's is different from a PhD, but I just kept on telling myself that. And I've been in fora and in different places where I feel like, oh, I don't qualify to be here. But it's okay to feel like that, but it's not an excuse to back out. That's just the idea. So opportunities will come. We would definitely not take all the opportunities, but the ones that we can take, we should take them.
I want to try and deviate as well a bit. I want to get your thoughts on something here, especially with what we're discussing. So, if I was to ask you, what does it mean to be black for you?
Okay. Again, speaking to an African immigrant that is just trying to settle down here, I wasn't really conscious about my blackness in quotes until I came to this country. And so now and don't get me wrong, being in the UK, so I consider it a very wonderful opportunity. I love the country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I still cannot I can't escape. I still find myself noticing once in a while subtle remarks here and there that seem to signify that, being black, there's something wrong with it. but I have not, to be honest, I have not faced open racism, if that's what you're asking me. I've not really faced what I would classify as open racism, but I'm aware that there's a lot of subtle racism that lurks in different corners and even lurks in high offices or places where you don't expect it to be. I still, so now I'm more aware of my color, even though I was raised to not see anything as a limitation. Rather, it's an inspiration for me to prove anybody wrong. Anybody that has this type of thinking, that tends to think that maybe there's something wrong with me being black. They're welcome. I'm welcoming them into my world so that I can prove them wrong. So that's, for me, being black means I should rise to the highest level of my potential and be the best I can be.
Beautifully put. I mean, I think that was what I was getting at. I wasn't necessarily trying to find out if you've encountered any racial experiences or situations, but similar to yourself, I grew up in Africa as well, right? So I grew up in Zambia, so I had that same idea. Like, when you come here, it's such a thing of being black, whereas when you grew up in that context, you just are, and everyone around you just is. You don't separate and categorize everyone as much. Whereas when you come here, there is very much you're put in a certain box, even if you don't feel like you fit in it, you just are in that box, whether you like it or not. And it's usually down to pigment or just the fact that you come from Africa, which is such a huge place. Many places I'm yet to visit. I feel like that call to rising to the very top of excellence is a great vision and a great way to define what being black is. And I think it's what we're trying to show, because there are a lot of people out here who, when you look, depending on who you are, dear listener, you would see as black. And what you need to remember is, they are pursuing excellence. They are trying the best to be a good mentor and role model, and go beyond what you might have heard in the news and get to know the person. Be curious enough to ask a question and say hello. It might change your life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful words, Shy.
I mean, they were your words, man. Let me ask you another question and see where you go with this. So if I was to ask you, Yusuf, who taught you how to shave? What would you say?
Shave. I'm still learning how to shave. As you can see, if I knew how to shave very well, probably I wouldn't have. Yeah, but I think my dad showed me how to shave. Yeah, once or twice. But the thing is, he didn't really do a good job on that front. he he does other things well, but he didn't really bother. He just showed me once. I saw it, and then since then, I do it when I want to. But recently, a few years back, I've been keeping this beard now for a few years, and my partner seems to like it. So it doesn't look like I'm shaving much anytime soon.
Fascinating, because I like that question, because sometimes it speaks to what you were experiencing as an adolescent or when you were becoming a young man or a man, and who might have been around to guide you through those things we all experience, as, shall we say, when we become men. Because we don't always have the people around us, or we don't feel like we can have the conversation with some of the people around us. So shaving is one of them. But for me, I don't think anyone really taught me kind of, so, but like in terms of someone being next to me and showing me what specifically to do, until I go to the barber shop in later life, the movies, I was like, do I need foam and a razor, or is that going to give me bumps? Everyone just tells you you're going to get bumps.
Bumps. My dad did once, but I don't think he was specifically showing me. It was just, and that's why I said he didn't do a good job on that front. I literally did it myself. So
Things for you to try with your son.
I'll try. I'll see if he wants me to teach him, because these days people have their own children, have their own mindsets, so you have to respect that.
And what's something you wish men talked about more?
Yeah, I wish, and actually, it's mental health. The answer is clear. I wish like we were more open with ourselves to let ourselves know that these are challenges that you might likely face or that you may be facing, and then you should be open to discussing it and helping. What if something worked for you, share with the other person. Like I feel like especially the grown men with younger coming up lads, there doesn't seem to be much of communication. Most they don't talk. You just figure it out when you come of age. You figure it out yourself, and then if it doesn't go well with you, then it's so sad. But that's the reality. I wish we had more mental health discussions or discussions around challenges of life and how to tackle it.
I mean, I think you're contributing to that right now. And I also like the focus on the men with younger men in their lives, whether those are your children or your nephews or nieces or anything like that. And yeah, finding a place, because I think when you have, for example, a family, your life becomes about your family, and that's your main focus for at least those first 18 years, right? And it's only after that, or when the children leave home, that you maybe start thinking again about yourself. And yeah, it's probably a good idea to engage with a community like ours, or any that you can find, with other people who, yeah, you can talk about what you're going through and bounce ideas around, because none of us have the answer, but all of us do.
Yeah, absolutely. I really agree. And I like that line. Most of us, none of us has the answer, but all of us do. Together, that means collectively, we have the answers that we need. Great.
Wow. Well, I'm feeling like we've covered a lot of ground. I would love to go into even things to do with business, because I know that that's another area of passion for you. But I'm very mindful of the time, and I respect your time. I know what the PhD grind can be like. So we'll probably save that for another conversation, and assume that there is so much value within this current conversation that people will be blown away, and they'll keep following us on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever, and keep listening. For you, Yusuf, if there was some advice now that you would give to the listener, whether it's the younger listener, the older listener, or someone in the middle? What would it be? This is a key takeaway.
Yeah, so for me, I would just feel like whatever you are in your life right now, whatever goals you have in mind, the thing is, the key to always remember is to take action, massive action, just going ahead to take action about your goals. That's one thing I learned from this year. I learned it from a lot of people said it, but the person that said it that stuck to me was Grant Cardone, and he talked a lot about massive action and 10xing. You know, he has this thing called 10x. So just try to, if you can do more than, because you can actually do more than you give yourself credit for. So if you can just take the first step and then try to see how you can multiply those steps and just keep pushing, as long as you don't give up, you are most likely going to win. But if you give up, then that means you've made sure you're not going to win. So I just want to advise, and not advise, but I just want to admonish that we should just try to take more actions towards our goals, the goals that really matter to us. Thank you.
Brilliant. I mean, I think that is a powerful message to end on. Don't sell yourself short. Whatever you're aiming for, you could likely achieve more, whatever that is. Whether that's you want to one day run a 5K, 10x it, you could run a 50K. So that means even if you don't get to the 50K, you will blow away the 5K target that you originally had. So just try and aspire more and know that there is a lot within you that you can get. And if you like the conversation and you're liking what we're about, follow the Men Talk Ubuntu community and listen more. Send us some of your thoughts. Let us know what you thought about the discussion that we had. And Yusuf, if people wanted to, I don't know, maybe reach out for some mentorship, not right now because you're busy, perhaps after you're finished, or if they wanted to keep up with what you do, is there any platform that they should follow you on or try and connect with you on?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Yusuf Going Global. Yusuf Going Global. Yusuf is YUSUF, and then Going GOING, then LOBAL. So the Going Global has just one G. Going Global, the same G. So at Yusuf Going Global on Instagram. I think Instagram is a platform I'm using more these days. So if you follow me on Instagram, I follow back, and then we can start the conversation from there.
Fantastic.
Fabulous. Thank you very much for that. So, you know, as we said, thank you very much for letting us and telling us to take action. That's what we do. Nothing more, nothing less. But no, I really appreciate you giving us your time today. And giving us an insight into, you know, what goes on in the world of Yusuf. And yeah, looking forward to more of this and more of the journey.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Shai. I'm really happy to be on your platform. I really love what you're doing with Men Talk Ubuntu, and I'm definitely going to be part of this going forward many times over. Like, I love the idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being part of the community and adding to the positive perspectives on Black men and men in general and mental health. You, sir, are a great friend, a great father, and a great community member. So yeah, take care, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
Hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed creating.
Don't forget to follow, like, share, and connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our latest episode and listen to any you missed. And tune in next episode.
Take care.